The pursuit of desire often leads men down a path of self-abandonment, where they mistakenly believe that constant giving and immediate availability are the keys to a woman's heart. This premise is fundamentally flawed. Attraction is not a reward for compliance. It is an involuntary response to strength, structure, and scarcity. A man who sets genuine boundaries is not being difficult. He is defining his high value, and this clarity of self is what triggers the chase mechanism in a woman's psychology. Boundaries are not walls built out of fear, but the architectural blueprint of a life so defined and purposeful that a woman must elevate her own effort and respect to gain entry. The man who is unwilling to compromise his inner world for external approval becomes an immovable center, and that stability is the single most attractive force in human relationships. We will dissect the 7 boundaries that establish this invincible masculine frame, analyzing the psychological depth of each one to provide a roadmap for profound self-mastery. 1. The boundary of emotional non-reactivity, the fortress of inner calm. This first boundary is the bedrock of all masculine power, demanding that your emotional state remains untouchable by the emotional volatility of those around you. When a woman introduces chaos, drama, or testing into the interaction, whether through moodiness, manufactured crises, or deliberate withdrawal, the predictable man reacts instantly, mirroring her intensity with anxiety, frustration, or defensive explanation. This reaction confirms to her, on a visceral, subconscious level, that she possesses the emotional remote control to your life, and the moment she gains control, her desire for you collapses. The powerful, high-value man, however, exercises emotional sovereignty. He meets her chaos with stillness, her drama with a calm observation, and her withdrawal with a redirection of his focus back to his purpose. This non-reactive stance forces her to confront her own emotional excess in the mirror of your peace. You are communicating that while you can absorb her storm, you will not drown in it, and that profound, unshakable stability is the anchor she desperately seeks. She stops testing to break you and starts chasing to be closer to your unassailable composure, because true respect is only given to the frame that cannot be broken. This requires a deep, stoic philosophy, understanding that her emotions are hers to manage, and your highest duty is to protect the integrity of your own inner world, regardless of the external stimulus. 2. The boundary of purpose and time. Scarcity is value. Your time is your life force, and how you allocate it is the most honest indicator of your self-respect and the hierarchy of your values. Most men, driven by the fear of being forgotten, make themselves immediately and constantly available, treating their time as worthless. They drop their mission, cancel their plans, and interrupt their focus the moment a woman calls. This over-availability is not seen as devotion. It is registered as a critical lack of a compelling life outside of her. The high-value man sets the boundary of purpose, which dictates that his primary commitment is to his mission, his growth, and his structure. His time is scarce because it is genuinely dedicated to building something of substance. When she reaches out, she finds she must wait, not out of gamesmanship, but because his life is already full and in motion. This intentional, measured unavailability creates a necessary emotional vacuum. She misses you, she wonders about you, and she begins to perceive the small moments of your attention as a valuable, earned privilege, not an entitlement. This forces her into a position of investment. She must respect your schedule, plan ahead, and elevate her effort to integrate into your structured life, rather than expecting your life to revolve around her spontaneity. This boundary shifts the dynamic from her being the center of your universe to you being the center of your own, and that powerful self-sufficiency is what she chases. 3. The boundary of self-respect and standards, the non-negotiable core. A man's standards are the unwritten rules for how he expects to be treated, and they must be enforced with the consistency of natural law. This boundary is about recognizing that love without respect quickly decays into dependency and resentment. The moment a man compromises his core principles, tolerating mild disrespect, accepting inconsistency, or explaining away infidelity, to keep a relationship alive, he signals profound internal weakness. He communicates that his self-worth is conditional, flexible, and ultimately negotiable. Self-respect demands that you draw clear, inviolable lines around loyalty, honesty, and emotional maturity. When a standard is tested, the response must be a calm, immediate, and definitive consequence, which is the withdrawal of your energy. You do not argue, you do not yell, and you do not retaliate. You simply step back, increasing the distance between her behavior and your presence. This silent action is exponentially more powerful than any argument. It forces her to understand that the consequence is not punishment from you, but a direct result of her own action. She learns that the cost of violating your standards is the loss of your anchoring presence. This absolute refusal to betray yourself, even when feelings are intense, is the ultimate display of character that commands a woman's deep primal respect and fuels her desire to align with your value. 4. The boundary of emotional space. Distance as the engine of desire. The majority of men mistakenly believe that physical and emotional closeness equate to intimacy, and they smother the connection with constant presence and overcommunication. This eliminates the essential element of polarity. Attraction is sustained by tension, and tension requires space to breathe. The boundary of emotional space is the commitment to maintain your individuality and separate life, refusing to merge completely with the woman, even in the deepest stages of affection. This means preserving your independent friends, your solo activities, and the sacred time you spend in self-reflection and personal growth. When you create this intentional distance, you preserve the mystery. She can never fully categorize you or take your presence for granted. The quiet gaps in your communication, the nights you choose solitude over reassurance, and the aspects of your life she doesn't fully understand, all contribute to a sense of the unknown that stimulates her curiosity. Curiosity is the mental precursor to the chase. By demonstrating that your happiness is internally generated and does not rely on her constant presence, you show her that your connection is an addition to a fulfilling life, not the source of it. This psychological independence makes her feel safe because she knows you are a whole, self-sustaining entity, and it is this feeling of anchoring onto something solid and autonomous that keeps her pursuing you. 5. The boundary of communication restraint, the weight of silence. In the modern age, men have succumbed to the habit of verbal excess, driven by the insecurity to over-explain and justify their thoughts and decisions. This habit diminishes their masculine authority. The boundary of communication. Restraint dictates that your words must be rare, precise, and purposeful. You do not fill silence out of anxiety, and you do not use language to beg for understanding. When a man speaks less, the quality and weight of his words increase exponentially. He uses silence as a tool to hold the conversational frame, allowing the emotional tension to build until she breaks it, thereby forcing her to invest. When she is emotionally charged, the powerful man resists the urge to argue or to logically dismantle her position. Instead, he slows the tempo, speaks calmly, and often responds only to the core issue, ignoring the emotional noise. This restraint conveys an unassailable inner composure. She will respect the man who refuses to be drawn into unnecessary verbal sparring because his silence communicates a profound conviction. My truth does not require your approval to be valid. This economy of language forces her to lean in, to listen intently, and to value every syllable you utter. The man who can command attention by saying less is the man who truly controls the dynamic, and that control is the essence of irresistible attraction. 6. The boundary of non-compromise on values, unwavering direction. A man's values are his internal compass, defining his trajectory and moral alignment. The boundary of non-compromise is the refusal to deviate from these core values for the sake of relationship harmony or emotional ease. Many men see relationships as a constant series of compromises, but a high-value relationship is built on alignment, not capitulation. This boundary applies to matters of finance, life philosophy, career ambition, and personal integrity. You do not ask her permission to pursue your highest goals. You inform her of your trajectory and make space for her to join. If she challenges a fundamental value, such as your commitment to fitness, your ambition in business, or your loyalty to your family, your response must be one of unwavering, calm commitment to your value. You are not willing to sacrifice your life's purpose to keep her. because that sacrifice would lead to resentment and eventual self-hatred, which she would inevitably lose respect for. This certainty in your own direction is what creates the masculine directionality she wants to follow. She realizes that the only way to retain your presence is to respect the non-negotiable standards that define you. This boundary forces her choice: to rise up and align with your strength, or to fall away and lose access to it. 7. The final boundary: the power of detachment and graceful exit. The ultimate proof of a man's boundaries, self-worth, and inner freedom is his sincere, calm, and absolute willingness to exit a relationship when the cost of staying compromises his core being. This is the boundary of integrity and loss aversion. Most men are incapable of this final step. They stay out of fear of loss, fear of loneliness, or hope of future change, leaving in anger, resentment, or dramatic confrontation. This chaotic exit reveals that they were still emotionally dependent. The man of true power, however, practices graceful detachment. When the dynamic becomes fundamentally disrespectful, misaligned, or detrimental to his purpose, he simply and calmly leaves. He does not seek closure, he does not argue for his value, and he does not burn the bridge in a fit of rage. He steps away in peace, because his peace is his highest currency. This final, non-reactive exit transforms him from a participant in her drama to an unshakable memory. The absence he leaves behind is not the void of a weak man, but the echoing space of a powerful man who chose himself. This detachment is the single most compelling trigger for her chase, because she realizes she did not lose a mere boyfriend. She lost the immovable emotional anchor that structured her world, and that profound sense of loss often compels a desperate reevaluation and subsequent pursuit. The man who can walk away without looking back has proven that he is not defined by the relationship, and that autonomy is the final magnetic core of masculine attraction.